नमः सर्वेभ्यः। व्योम-संस्कृत-पाठशालायाः रघुवंश-ग्रन्थावगाहनं 12 सर्गः इत्यस्मिन् प्रक्रमे सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। अद्य अस्य प्रक्रमस्य चतुर्थः पाठः। अद्य वयं व्याकरणांशानां विषये पीठिकारूपेण अध्ययनम् अनुवर्तयामः। अस्मिन् पाठे पुनः अग्रिमपाठे वयं पीठिकांशान् समाप्य ततः साक्षात् काव्यस्य अध्ययनम् आरभामहे. So just thought of giving an extended introduction because as we are starting with a textual study, it is good to understand the layout of what exactly we are trying to do. Though we will build on this over the next few years as we pass through future levels, it will not everything happen in one course. But if we know what it is that we are trying to do, we will get there someday. That is the intention with which we are deliberately taking a detailed look into the Shlokadhyayana Krama. Samanyatah अत्यन्तं संक्षेपेण इदम् उच्यते, किन्तु तत्र कथं करणीयं किं करणीयम् इति बहूनां सन्देहाः भवन्ति. तदर्थमेव अत्र किञ्चित् विस्तरेण अस्माभिः एते अंशाः अवलोक्यन्ते. मङ्गलं कुर्मः. गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोर्मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो. वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती-परमेश्वरौ. वन्दामहे महोद्दण्डदोर्दण्डौ रघुनन्दनौ तेजो निर्जितमार्तण्डमण्डलौ लोकनन्दनौ. किञ्चिदिव पुनरावर्तनं कुर्मः. अस्माभिः श्लोकाध्ययनक्रमः कः इति ज्ञातुं प्रयासः विधीयते. पारम्परिकरूपेण यदा कस्यचित् श्लोकस्य अध्ययनं कुर्मः, प्रथमं सोपानं भवति पदच्छेदः. यत्र श्लोके विद्यमानानां पदानां सन्धिविभागं कृत्वा तत्र कानि कानि पदानि सन्ति इति जानीमः. तथैव यत्र यत्र समस्तपदानि सन्ति तत्र अवयवानाम् अभिज्ञानार्थमपि वयं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः. So in the first step called Padacheda, we split the words of the sentence. As we studied last time, Padam is Subantam or Tingantam. So when I say Pada Vibhaga, technically we just take each Subanta, Tinganta separately. But within the Samasta Pada, there are several joined Padas. We try to identify the components so that we can understand their meaning easily. द्वितीयं सोपानं भवति वाक्यविश्लेषणं. यत्र सुबन्त तिङन्त अव्ययानि अभिज्ञाय विभक्ति निर्णयं कुर्मः. So when we have the words separated, we just categorize them as subantas, tingantas, avyayas. And wherever there are subantas, we just identify the vibhakti of the subantas. This step is just meant to help us in building the anvaya. The focus here is not on Vyakarana, which shabda, which anta. We don't get into detail. So somebody asked, what is the difference between this and Vyakaranamsha? So here, the only thing we are doing is to see the vibhakti so that we can ask the akanksha based questions and get at the anvaya. We don't go further. There is a bit of an overlap, but here the focus is more on the meaning, anvaya of the words to each other, for which the vibhakti becomes important. तृतीय सोपाने आकांक्षाक्रमेण प्रतिपदार्थं ज्ञातुं प्रयत्नं कुर्मः. So we start with the Kriyapada and we ask questions on how other words are related to the Kriyapada. Kriyapadasya adharena अन्यानि पदानि कथं सम्बद्धानि भवन्ति, कथं अन्वितानि भवन्ति, how the different words are related to each other to form a complete sentence. That method is called akanksha. तेनैव क्रमेण एकैकं पदं स्वीकृत्य तस्य तस्य अर्थम् अपि वयं जानीमः. So we get the meaning of each word and also the relation with the core. एतावत् कृत्वा अस्माभिः श्लोकस्य अन्वयः भावार्थः च प्राप्तुं शक्यते. So we get the proper prose order of the words of the shloka, and we will also be able to give the overall meaning in our own words. So these the steps in between the Vakya Vishleshanam and Akanksha, they are required only when we are doing an in-depth study. So generally what we can do is do the Padacheda and directly give the Anvaya and explain the meaning. That is what is done. But how exactly are we getting the Anvaya? If we want to know, then we have to go through the intermediate 2 steps. Tataha yada bhashayaha adhyayanam api lakshyam bhavati. Yatra shlokasya adhyayanam eva lakshyam athava shlokarthasya adhyayanam eva lakshyam. If our objective is only to know the meaning of a shloka, which is possible, we need not study every text in full detail. If we are looking only at the meaning as the focus, we can always stop at level 4, understand the shloka and move on to the next shloka. But if we are looking at the shloka as a tool to develop our bhasha jnana, tada kiಂ kurmaha tatra shloke vidyamanan vyakaranaamshan kavyamshan api vayam pathamaha. Tena tesham amshanam avagamanam samyak bhavati. Tataha agre tatra visheshamshaha api bhavanti. Yadi kavyagranthah tarhi tatra kimartham vishishtapadanam upayogaha, tatra धर्मशास्त्रस्य किं प्रमाणम्, अर्थविशेषः कः इत्यादि ज्ञायते. यदि शास्त्रग्रन्थः भवति तत्र पूर्वपक्षः समाधानम् इत्यादि भवन्ति. So those are called visheshamshaः. Sometimes alternate interpretations of a shloka. For example, बहुभिः तत् गतवर्गेऽपि पृष्टं. तत्र पार्वती-parameshvarau इत्यत्र केषुचित् व्याख्यानेषु Parvati-parameshvarau ityapi chhedah kriyate. So there are some interpreters who split it not as Parvati-parameshvarau, rather they split it as Parvati-paha cha Rameshwaraha cha. So Parvati-paha, Parvatim pati iti Parvati-paha is Shiva, and Rameshwaraha, Ramayaha Ishwaraha Rameshwaraha is Vishnu. So you can interpret the same shloka as Shiva and Vishnu, Harihara Abheda. Right. So they are always together. Vagartha viva sampraktau. They are not distinct from each other. And that is one of the interpretations given by some commentators. So that can be studied. So there are some, because of the richness of Samskrita, there are often multiple interpretations possible. But did Kalidasa really intend it is a question, because in this shloka especially, when he says vak arthau, he didn't say shabdarthau. Shabdaha, arthaha are both pullinga shabdas. He deliberately uses vak and arthau. Vak is a strilinga shabda and artha is a pullinga shabda. So with their union, it seems more natural to split it as Parvati and Parameshwara. And Kalidasa was devoted to Parvati-parameshvara, Shiva Bhakta. He has used multiple Mangala shlokas of his texts begin with salutation to Shiva sometimes Parvati. So it's more natural, but it's a different, interpretation. So those things can be studied under Visheshamshaha. Vyakyakaraha kadachit etadrishani api amshan bodhayanti. So before that, we are in the fifth level where Vyakaranamshaha, Kavyamshaha cha ityatra gata varge asmabhihi drishtam श्लोके विद्यमानानां पदानां व्याकरण विवरणं स्तरद्वये द्रष्टुं वयं शक्नुमः. तत्र प्रथमं सोपानं भवति पदपरिचयः. पदं नाम किं? प्रकृति प्रत्यययोः योजनेन पदं सिद्ध्यति. संस्कृते पदं द्विविधम् एव भवति. सुबन्तं पदं भवति, तिङन्तं पदं भवति. There are only two kinds of padas. So any number of padas that we get from our pada vibhaga, we can categorize into these two. What is a subanta? Pratipadikena sup pratyayanam yojanam kurmaha chet subantam padam labhyate. Pratipadikam is a nominal root. To this, we add a set of pratyayas called sup pratyayas. There are 21 pratyayas starting with su, ending with p. Su, auja, sammauchas, etc. So those are termed sup. So for any pratipadika, when we add the sup pratyaya, we get a set of forms. Those are called the shabda rupani or vibhakti rupani. Tingantam padam api bhavati yatra dhatubhyah ting pratyayanam yojanam kriyate. So we have verbal roots called dhatus. By adding ting, again it is a set of 18 pratyayas. Ti ityarabhya ng paryantam tiptasdhi sipthastha ityadi ashtadasha pratyayaha santi. Tesham yojanena tinganta rupani bhavanti. यत्र यत्र सुबन्तं भवति तत्र चत्वारः अंशाः अस्माभिः ज्ञातव्याः. प्रातिपदिकस्य अन्तः नाम अन्तिमवर्णः लिङ्गं भवति. एवमेव वचनं विभक्तिः. प्रत्ययः सुप्रत्ययाः सप्तसु विभक्तिषु त्रिषु वचनेषु विभक्ताः. विभक्ति वचनज्ञानं भवति. So we have done this partially. The vibhakti at least we would have understood in the Vakya Vishleshana, but we put together everything here with focus on the word, not on just the vibhakti. Yatra tinganta rupani bhavanti, tatra vastutah itopi bahavaha amshaha bhavanti, kintu prathamika stare dhatuhu jnayate lakaraha padam. अत्र पदम इत्यनेन परस्मै पदम आत्मने पदम विवक्षितम्. पुरुषः वचनम्. एते अंशाः तिङन्तानां विषये अस्माभिः ज्ञायन्ते. अत्र अव्ययानि अपि सुबन्तेषु एव अन्तर्भवन्ति इत्यपि वयं ज्ञातवन्तः. अव्ययेषु यत् प्रातिपदिकं भवति तेभ्यः सुप्रत्ययस्य योजनं क्रियते, किन्तु पुनः तस्य लोपः क्रियते. So supratyayas are added to all avyayas, but they are all deleted. So they do not cause a change. Na vyeti parivartanam na prapnoti iti avyayam. So avyayam is defined as something which does not change its form, whichever linga, whichever vachana, whichever vibhakti, etc. Sadrisham trishu lingeshu ityadi. Kimartham na vyeti iti chet pratyaya lopaha. If there is a pratyaya, the pratyaya undergoes modifications and therefore we get different vibhakti forms. If the pratyaya is gone, what remains is the original pratipadika of the avyaya and it remains the same. That is why it becomes an avyaya. It is also under subantas, but since we can identify it that it doesn't change, we just identify it as an avyaya. Grammatically, it is a subset of the subanta category. Okay. Now, when we dig a bit deeper into the next level of Vyakarana. Knowing this is the first level, but when we think further, we have this Pratipadikam and we have this Dhatuhu. Pratipadikam athava Dhatuhu katham utpadyate. How was this Pratipadika or this Dhatu generated? When we look at this, we go into level 2 of Vyakarana. Tatra kim asti? Pratipadikasya nirmanam katham bhavati iti yada vayam pashyamaha. There are 4 grammatical processes which generate Pratipadikas. Okay. Kridantam Pratipadikam iti prathamam. So the first process which generates Pratipadika is called Kridanta. What is a Kridanta? Dhatoho Krit pratyayasya yojanena Kridantam rupam siddhyati. A Kridanta is defined as a dhatu combining with a Krit pratyaya. So just like we saw sup and ting in our earlier class, Krit is a class of pratyayas. What is Krit? If you ask, there is no meaning for Krit as such. Krit just means that which creates or generates. But Krit technically is a name which is given to a set of pratyayas. And these pratyayas are much more than sup or ting. There are around 120 or 130 Krit pratyayas which are found in Vyakarana. They are all added in different meanings. Whenever we take a dhatu and add these Krit pratyayas, we get a shabda which is called a Kridanta. And any Kridanta is a Pratipadikam. Udaharanani Kridantanam parichayah tu sarvesham bhavati. Yatha nayakaha, neta, nitavan, nitam, nitva, netum. Ete sarvepi Kridantaha shabdaha. Atra ekaikam vayam pashyamaha chet sarvatrapi dhatuhu asti saha dhatuhu ni dhatuhu. Nayati, to take ityarthe, ni iti dhatu. To this dhatu, we are adding a pratyaya called Krit pratyaya. Pratyayas are varying, right? You should know. Say nitavan is, we say ktavatu pratyaya, kta pratyaya. Neta is trich pratyaya. Nayaka is nvul pratyaya. Nitva is ktva pratyaya. Netum is tumun pratyaya. So whenever I say a pratyaya, we have to identify which pratyaya. So whatever Krit pratyayas we have, they are added to dhatus and they help in generating a Pratipadika. For example, in this actually, Nayaka is an Akaranta Pullinga Shabda. That is a Kridanta and it is a Pratipadika. To this Nayaka, Akarantaha Pullingaha Nayaka Shabdaha, we are adding the sup pratyayas. Nayakaha, Nayakau, Nayakaha. So that is why it is always minimum 2 steps. So first step, we generate the Pratipadika. Next step, we get the Shabda Rupas of that Pratipadika. Okay. So evam Krit dhatubhyaha Krit pratyayanam yojanena Pratipadikam siddhyati. The second way is called Tadhitantam Pratipadikam. Atra kim bhavati? Pratipadikebhyaha Tadhita pratyayanam yojanena. So Tadhita is another set of pratyayas. And this is even bigger than the Krit set. There are more than 500 Tadhita pratyayas. Okay. These are also added in various meanings. The difference is a Krit pratyaya is always added to a dhatu, whereas Tadhita pratyaya is added to other Pratipadikas or Subantas. Very technically, we have to say Subantat Tadhitotprattihi. But for our understanding, I've just put it as Pratipadikam. Udaharanam kim? Say Dasharathihi. Dasharathasya putraha. So to convey the son of Dasharatha to a Pratipadika called Dasharatha, we are adding a Tadhita Pratyaya. Similarly, Raghavaha. Raghu was a Pratipadika. To it, I add a Tadhita Pratyaya to get Raghava. Buddhiman. Buddhihi asya asti iti buddhiman. Buddhi is a Pratipadika to which we are adding Matup Pratyaya. Vagmi. So Vak asya asti. Okay, he who possesses very good speech. Okay, so we get a pratyaya called gmin. We get vagmin. So all these are tadhitanta pratipadikas. Pratipadikas that we are generating by adding tadhita pratyayas to a pratipadika. Okay. So next we have another way. We call it samastam pratipadikam or samasaha. In a samasa, what do we do? Normally 98%. So please don't ask further questions on this because there are some samasas which are different, but 98% of the times subantam subantena samasyate. We combine two subantas to get a new word, a new pratipadika. That is called samasa. Sitapatihi. Sitayaha patihi sitapati. So you have a subanta called Sitayaha. We have another subanta called Patihi. When we combine these two, we get a samasa, samasta pada called Sitapati, which is a shabda, like Hari shabda, ikarantaha, pullingaha, Sitapati shabdaha. To this, you can go on adding all the 21 sup pratyayas, and we get like Harihi, Hari Harayaha, Sitapatihi, Sitapati, Sitapatayaha. So Rama Lakshmanau, Ramascha Lakshmanascha, Chakrapanihi, Chakram Panau Yasya Saha, Upakrishnam, Krishnasya Samipam. All these are examples where we are combining two subantas to generate a new word called new pratipadika, called a samasa or a samasta pada. You can do it again and again. If you have a long samasa, so you get one, you combine it again, you combine it again. You can repeat these processes. We will come to there. So for now, we are getting a simple overview. The fourth way of generating a pratipadika is called ekasheshaha. Ekashesha jatam pratipadikam. A pratipadika generated from ekashesha. One request, please hold on to your questions. I understand if you are studying this for the first time, you will have. Don't immediately seek answers. I am trying to explain. We are still starting. Okay, please hold back your questions. If you want, you can type it in, it's okay. But in general, listen. Try to listen with full focus. Then at the end of my explanation, if still something is not cleared, you can always ask. There is more details. I will, take this step by step. So, ekashesha jatam pratipadikam. What is a pratipadika generated from ekashesha? It is similar to subanta, subanta. There are two subantas, but instead of combining them, we delete one of them and retain only one subanta. That is called eka shesha. Shesha means remainder. One remains and the other sort of disappears, but the meaning is still there. The most famous example is Pitarau, which we saw. Matacha Pitacha. It means mother and father. There are two subantas. One is Mata and the other is Pita. But when we do an Ekashesha, only Pita remains and Mata, the word Mata disappears. Mata does not go anywhere. The word Pitarau now means mother and father, parents. Atayeva Jagataha Pitarau means the parents, mother and father. The meaning is still there. It leaves its imprint behind, but the word itself is not heard. If we combine directly using a samasa, we get Mata Pitarau, which is also valid. But when we do an Ekashesha, the word Pita remains, the word Mata disappears, but gives the meaning. So Pitarau is called Ekashesha, where only one word remains, but conveys the meaning of both. Similarly, we have Hamsau. If I want to say a pair of swans, a male swan and a female swan, Hamsi cha Hamsaha cha. Like Ramaha cha Lakshmanau cha becomes Rama Lakshmanau, Hamsi cha Hamsaha cha, we don't need to say Hamsi Hamsau. We just say Hamsau. Again, only one word remains, the other Hamsa disappears. Such a process is called Ekashesha. It sounds similar to Samasa because in both cases we are combining two Subantas. When both words are heard, it is a Samasa. Say Ramascha, Lakshmanascha. We are hearing both Rama and Lakshmana. That is a Samasa. In Mata cha Pita cha, if we don't hear Mata, it is called Ekashesha. It is a very special process. You cannot do it everywhere. In Rama Lakshmana, you cannot say, I will delete Rama and say only Lakshmana. Will it mean Rama Lakshmana? It will not. Ekashesha is a special process which occurs only in specific cases. So now there are 4 ways of generating the Pratipadika. Clear? One is called Kridanta, the other is called Tadhitanta, third is called Samasa, and the fourth is called Ekashesha. So whatever Namapadas we identified in level 1, we said we gave some Vibhakti, some Vachana. If we want to go further, how did this Pratipadika come about? The answer will lie in one of these 4. Okay. So that is the second level in a Subanta. First, I said we have Pratipadika with the Supratyaya. We identified Antalinga Vibhakti Vachana. Now I just zoom in on the Pratipadika and see how did this Pratipadika come about. Then we get 4 answers. Kridanta, Tadhitanta, Samasa and Ekashesha. When we go to Dhatus, Dhatoho nirmanam katham bhavati iti yada pashyamaha. In Dhatu, there are about 2000 original Dhatus in Sanskrita. There are no original Pratipadikas, or rather very, very, very less. There is a difference of opinion, but there may be a very few underived Pratipadikas. Most of the Pratipadikas will be generated by these 4. There are, as I said, a very, very minority, may no specific list of such things. It is most of the Pratipadikas in Samskrita are derived from Dhatus. But the Dhatu is the basic building block of the language. There are about 2000 original Dhatus in Samskrita. Okay, what we call the Dhatu Patha. There are about 2000 original Dhatus in specific meanings. So those are all Dhatus where there is no creation. They are just originally a Dhatu. Okay. So normal Kriya Padas, when I say Pathati or Vandate or Nayati, we say Pathadhatuhu, Vandadhatuhu, Nidhatuhu. In that case, There is no question how was the dhatu created. It is an original dhatu. So if there is an original dhatu, there is no level 2. Okay, it stops with level 1. You take the dhatu, you add a specific lakara, purusha, vachana, and you get the tinganta kriyapada. That is a simple word. But there are cases where dhatu can also be generated from other words. So there are two kinds of dhatus in Samskrita. We call them Aupadeshika dhatavaha. Aupadeshika dhatavaha means original dhatus of the language, original verbal roots, of which we have a specific list. It is not random. There are about 2000 dhatus which are accepted, which Panini himself has given a list in 10 ganas. Okay, those are the original dhatus. But we can also have pratyayanta dhatavaha, artificially created dhatus. When I say artificially, I don't mean we are doing it. In the language, by adding pratyayas, just like by adding krit pratyayas and tadhita pratyayas, we generate new pratipadikas. We can also generate new dhatus by adding specific pratyayas. Two of those pratyayas are very popular. Nijantaha dhatuhu. I am sure all of you are familiar. We take an original dhatu, add a pratyaya called nich. Then we get a dhatu called nijanta. Say pathayati. Pathati. Path is the original dhatu, means to read. To make somebody read is pathayati. We call it a causal nich. Preranarthakaha nich pratyayaha. So dhatoho prerana rupe arthe nich pratyayasya yojanena nijantaha dhatuhu bhavati. So just like we have pathati, pathataha, pathanti, when I add nich, I get a dhatu called pathi. Pathayati, pathayataha, pathayanti. I can get a series of verbal forms from this new dhatu. How am I getting the new dhatu? By adding a pratyaya called nich to the original dhatu. So nashayati. Nashyati is to be destroyed. To make something be destroyed is nashayati. Karoti is to do something. To make somebody else do it is called karayati. So all these are dhatus generated from original dhatus by adding a pratyaya called nich. Evameva sannanta rupani api prayaha asmabhihi jnayante. Icharthe san pratyayaha. To want to do something, whether I do it or not, I want to study Raghuvamsha. I want to study, say, Shankara Bhashya. So the desire to do something is conveyed by san pratyayaha. Atrapi moola dhatoho san pratyayasya yojanam bhavati. Chikirshati. Kartum ichhati. Wants to do. So I have karoti, kurutaha, kurvanti. If I actually do, if I want to do, I say chikirshati, chikirshataha, chikirshanti. So here chikirsha is a sannanta dhatu. Didrukshate, drashtum ichhati. So we have didruksha, which is a sannanta dhatu. Jigyasate, jnatum ichhati, jigyasate. It is called a sannanta dhatu. So we have nich, we have san, we have some other pratyayas also. Those are together called sanadyantaha. Yatra dhatubhyaha anye sanadi pratyayaha bhavanti. Yatha we have, so let me just change this. It need not always be a dhatu. Sometimes to a dhatu, sometimes to a pratipadika, we can add pratyayas to get some words. Tapasyati, namasyati, momudyate. Tapasyati is to perform penance. Tapaha charati. Tapas is a pratipadika to which I am adding a particular pratyaya. Similarly, namas is a pratipadika. We say namaha is an avyaya, but as we have discovered last class, there is a pratipadika which is namas, to which I add a pratyaya. Momudyate means atishayena modate, excessively happy. So for that we have a pratyaya. Putram ichhati, he who wants a son. Son, S-O-N, son, not the son pratyaya. Okay. Putriyati. So actually we have a total of 12 pratyayas together called sanadyantaha. So there are 12 pratyayas which help in creation of new dhatus. Okay. So these pratyayas are together bundled as sanadyanta pratyayaha. So san, nich, kyach, kamyach, kyang, etc. So there are 12 pratyayas which help us in generating new dhatus. So that is called sanadyanta dhatavaha. So now, if we look at this, there is a term called vrittihi. Any process which helps us generate a pratipadikam or a dhatu is called vritti. Vritti is the process of generation of new pratipadikas or new dhatus, and there are 5 kinds of vrittis. Vrittihi panchavidha bhavati. 4 vrittis help in pratipadika nirmanam. 4 processes help us to generate new pratipadikas. Krid vrittihi, tadhita vrittihi, samasa vrittihi, ekashesha vrittihi. So krid vritti adds krit pratyayas to a dhatu to get kridanta pratipadikam. Tadhita vritti adds tadhita pratyayas to pratipadikas to get a tadhitanta pratipadikam. Samasa vritti combines 2 subantas to generate a samastam pratipadikam. Ekashesha vritti combines 2 subantas and deletes one of them while leaving behind only one of the subantas, and it creates a pratipadika called ekashesha jatam pratipadikam. So there are 4 processes which help us in generating pratipadikas. And the 5th process called sanadyanta dhatu vrittihi. So it is whatever we saw in the previous slide, it's all one. There is a set of 12 pratyayas. It adds one of these 12 pratyayas called sanadi pratyayas to either dhatu or pratipadika. Some of them are added to dhatus, some are added to pratipadikas, but finally we end up with a dhatu. Dhatoho nirmanam bhavati. Evancha panchadha vrittihi prasiddha, krid vrittihi, tadhita vrittihi, samasa vrittihi, ekashesha vrittihi, sanadyanta dhatu vrittihi. So we will see example on what exactly is happening. Let us say krid vritti. What is krid vritti? Dhatu plus krit pratyaya is called krid vritti. So I take a dhatu called, say, vach, vakti, to speak. To the dhatu, I add a krit pratyaya called trich. And what do I get? I get a pratipadikam. Always, any kridanta, you take a dhatu, you add a krit pratyaya, you get a pratipadika. So vach dhatoho कृत् प्रत्ययस्य योजनेन वक्तृ इति प्रातिपदिकं भवति. Okay, but pratipadika we cannot use it. You have to further add a sup pratyaya. So there are always two stages. First is the vritti, where you are generating the pratipadika. To the pratipadika we add a sup pratyaya to get a subantam padam. So rikarantaha pullingaha vaktru shabdaha, to which you can add all 21 pratyayas. The first pratyaya is su. If you add su, we get vakta. Vakta, vaktarau, vaktaraha, vaktaram, vaktarau, vaktrun. You get the entire table. So to generate the pratipadika, we have a krid vritti. From the kridanta pratipadika, to generate the table of Shabda Rupas, we have the sup pratyayas. So, is Vakta, is it a Subanta or a Kridanta? What is the answer? Vakta is a Subanta generated from a Kridanta Pratipadika. It is both. You cannot say, generally when I say Trich, we say Vakta, which is correct. But always any Subanta, remember, will have two levels. So first level, it is a Subanta, but the Pratipadika for this Subanta is a Kridanta. So if I say Vakta is a Kridanta, it is fine. It is both, but not directly. You cannot stop with just the Kridanta. To this Kridanta, to use the Kridanta in a sentence, you have to get to a Subanta state. So Vakta is a Subanta generated from a Kridanta. It is both Kridanta and Subanta. So similarly, when I take a Dhatu called Ni, Nayati, he who takes ahead. To this I add a Krit Pratyaya called Nvul. I get a Pratipadika called Nayaka. So Nayaka is a Kridanta. The Vritti is Krid Vritti. Krid Vritti is taking the Dhatu called Ni, adding a Krit Pratyaya called Mul, and giving a Pratipadika called Nayaka. Cannot use this directly. I have to make it a Subanta. So Nayakaha, Nayakau, Nayakaha. Depending on what I want to see, any of those 7 into 3, 21. Or if you want to add Sambodhana, 8 3s are 24. Any form you can get. All forms are generated from the Pratipadika called Nayaka, which is a Kridanta. So Nayaka, if I add a Shashti Bahuvachana Pratyaya, I get Nayakanam. So a Subanta generated from a Kridanta Pratipadika. Okay. So Vakta means a speaker. Yes, he who speaks is Vaktru. It can be Pullinga. It can be Strilinga. If I want to make this in Strilinga, I say Vaktri, which is also Kridanta. And Vaktru in Napumsakalinga. In all three lingas, I get the Subanta forms. So Nayakaha, Nayika, Nayakam. He who leads or she who leads. So that is a Kridanta to which we are adding Supratyayas. Same thing, say Bhuj and Ktva. Bhuktva, having eaten. So Ktva is a Krit Pratyaya. So by Kridvritti, I get a Pratipadika called Bhuktva, to which I add a Supratyaya, but that Pratyaya gets deleted. So I have an Avyaya called Bhuktva. This is a Kridanta Avyaya. What do I mean? The Pratipadika is a Kridanta, but since it is an Avyaya, the Supratyaya has been deleted. So Bhuktva doesn't stop here. It gets the Supratyaya and which is deleted to give us Bhuktva. Evam yatra yatra Kridanta Shabdaha iti vadamaha. Tatra sarvatrapi. Okay. We are having a second stage called Subanta. So we add krit pratyaya to the dhatu to get the pratipadika. The same pratipadika you can convert to strilinga. Okay, stri pratyayas are special pratyayas which convert this to strilinga. That is, we have not mentioned here, but vaktri is also here. It is also a pratipadika. This actually generates vaktru or vaktri if we want specifically strilinga. Both of them are kridantas. But further, you have to make it a subanta. So in pullinga, it becomes vakta, vaktaro, vaktaraha. In strilinga, it becomes vaktri, vaktriyau, vaktriyaha. There is no tadhita there. It is just a stri pratyaya. So all these words, vakta, nayakanam, they are all both subantas and kridantas. That is, subantas ahead. So you go to level 2, we identify them as kridantas. So krid vritya tatra pratipadikam kridantam pratipadikam bhavati tasya supratyaya yojanena subantam bhavati. Okay. Very similarly, when we go to tadhitas, dasharatha iti pratipadikam asti. Tasmat putraha ityarthe I iti tadhita pratyaya bhavati. So this is a tadhita vritti where we are adding a tadhita pratyaya to a pratipadika to get a new pratipadika. Initially we had akarantaha pullingaha dasharatha shabdaha. Now we have ikarantaha pullingaha dasharathi shabdaha. To this, to use, I need to add the supratyayas. Tada dasharathihi, dasharathi, dasharathayaha iti subanta rupani bhavanti. Evameva buddhi iti pratipadikam asti. Ikarantaha strilingaha buddhi shabdaha. Buddhihi buddhi buddhayaha. Tasmat matup iti tadhita pratyayasya yojanena buddhimat iti pratipadikam labhyate. To this, if I add supratyaya, it could be any, as I said, the whole table. Buddhiman, buddhimantau, buddhimantaha, buddhimantam. Dvitiya vibhakti, I add an I get buddhimantam. Here also we can have avyayas. Just like kridanta avyayas, we have tadhitanta avyayas. Dvi means two. Dha is a tadhita pratyaya, means two types or two ways. We get dvidha in two ways. This is an avyaya. So when I add a supratyaya, the pratyaya gets deleted. So it remains as dvidha. Dvidha, kavyam dvidha, drishya kavyam, shravya kavyam. Kavyam is of two types. So this is a tadhitanta avyaya. In all these cases, we add tadhita pratyaya to pratipadika to get a tadhitanta pratipadika, to which we add supratyayas to get subantas. Tadhiteshu api strilinge bhavanti yatha buddhimat buddhimati. You can add stri pratyayas to distinguish, but it is still a tadhita vritti. The buddhimati is a tadhitanta shabda to which we add supratyayas. Okay. So now we have seen two vrittis. Similarly, samasa. Samase kim bhavati? Subantayoho yojanena. So Sita Ramaha. Sita cha Ramaha cha. When I add the two subantas, I get a pratipadika called Sita Rama, to which I need to add sup pratyayas to get Sita Ramau. Because they are two, I am adding dvivachana pratyaya, Sita and Rama. Rajnyaha putri. Rajnyaha iti subantam. Putri iti subantam. Rajaputri iti pratipadikam. To this, if I add any vibhakti pratyaya or a sup pratyaya, so Rajaputri, Rajaputriyau, Rajaputriyaha. In Shashti vibhakti, it becomes Rajaputriyaha. Now, what is this? This is a subanta where the Pratipadika is a samasa. That clarity between what it is very important, okay? Because I find many people, even at advanced stages, don't realize. There are questions like, is it Kridanta or Subanta? That question does not make sense. Any Kridanta has to become a Subanta, otherwise you cannot use it. Okay. Similarly, any Tadhitanta will be a Subanta. Tadhitanta is only a Pratipadika. You have to convert it into a Subanta to use. At the very top, there are only two, either Subanta or Tinganta. Behind the screen, if you screen the Pratipadika, you get Kridanta, Tadhitanta, Samasa, Ekashesha. Atrapi avyayani bhavanti. Nadyaha samipam. We get upa and nadi. Two subantas you join, you get upanadi. This is an avyaya. So it gets deleted and you get a form called upanadi. This is a samasa avyaya, where the pratipadika is a samasa. And because it is an avyaya, the supratyaya is deleted. Ekasheshe. Mata cha pita cha. So as we know, one of the subantas gets dropped. The other pitru is retained. To this, when I add the pratyaya, it becomes pitarau. Similarly, hamsi, hamsaha. So here also you have hamsa. One is retained, the other is dropped. When we add the supratyaya, it becomes hamsau. Atrapi putryaha cha putraha cha. Say I want to say I have 5 children. Say 3 daughters and 2 sons. Whatever. Putryaha, putraha. So here one of the words get dropped. Only putra remains. It means children, not just sons. Putra and dvitiya bahuvachana. If I say putran to mean my children, all these are examples of ekashesha. Then the last vritti, sanadyanta dhatu vritti, helps in generating dhatus. So here instead of subantam, we end up with tinganta padam. You can also further make series, but say for example, pathu with nich becomes a dhatu called pathi, to which I can add ting pratyayas to get pathayati, pathayataha, pathayanti. Kr dhatu with san gives a new dhatu called chikirsha. To chikirsha with ting pratyayas, I can say chikirshami. I want to do. Chikirshati, chikirshataha, chikirshanti. Similarly, chikirshami. So there is mud, modate, to be happy. There is a sanadi pratyaya. Sanadis are 12 pratyayas. So a pratyaya called young, it gives a new dhatu called momudya. This again, like we have modate, modete, modante, we have momudyate, momudyete, momudyante, is very happy or extremely happy. So for that we say momudyate. This is a new dhatu. All these are examples of sanadyanta dhatu vritti. I said these sanadi pratyayas sometimes are added to original dhatus. They can also be added to pratipadikas. So a putram atmanaha ichhati. He who wants to have a son. If you want to do something, we add the son pratyaya. If we want to have a something, I want to have money, I want to have, say, a house. So in such cases, there is a pratyaya called kyach, which gives a dhatu called putriya. Putriyati, putriyataha, putriyanti. So Dasharathaha putriyati means Dasharatha wants to have a son. Aham grihiyami means I want to have a house. You can desire anything, any object for yourself. So that pratyaya is called kyach. Similarly, kalaham acharati, he who creates a quarrel. So for that we have a pratyaya called kyang. Kalahayate means picking a quarrel. Kalaha is a pratipadika to which I can make it a dhatu. We do it a lot in English, especially. We keep adding that phi, okay, fy, to a lot of things to say to make it. Okay. Especially in regional languages, I think the examples, but Sanskrita has that where you can create a quarrel. Picking a quarrel is called kalahayate. All these are examples of a vritti called sanadyanta dhatu vritti, which some of you may not be very familiar. Forget it. Don't worry about exact pratyayas. It is, we will learn that in advanced stages. This is just an example. Okay. So now, kim jnatam asmabhihi pancha vrittayah santi krit tadhita samasa ekashesha vrittibhihi pratipadikasya nirmanam kriyate sanadyanta dhatu vrittya dhatunam nirmanam kriyate. So there are 5 vrittis which help us in generating dhatus and pratipadikas. Okay. And the important thing to understand is it is not always a single vritti. Okay. Don't go back with the impression that a word can be only tadhita or only kridanta. Vrittis can happen in a series. Vritti saranihi. So from the level 1, whether it is subanta or tinganta, there is only one shabda and one dhatu. But behind the screen processes can be multiple. Yatha budh iti dhatuhu asti. Budhyate, to know. So to that I perform kridvritti. Kridvritti is always adding a krit pratyaya to a dhatu. I get a pratipadika called buddhi. I can use this as an independent word. Buddhihi, buddhi, buddhayaha. But I can take this pratipadika and do another vritti. So to buddhi, I can add a tadhita pratyaya called matup. Okay. So buddhimat, he who possesses intelligence. Buddhi is the capacity to know or understand. He who possesses the capacity to know, buddhimat. So I first started with krit, then I have added a tadhita pratyaya. I get a pratipadika called buddhimat. Need not stop here also. I can make, say, a samasa. Buddhiman putraha. So from buddhimat I get buddhiman putraha, an intelligent son. So I get buddhimat putra. This is also a pratipadika. All these, a samasa generates a pratipadika. So now, if I am done, I end up as a pada, buddhimat putra. To that I add a sup pratyaya. So buddhimat putraha, an intelligent son. Akarantaha pullingaha buddhimat putra shabdaha prathama ekavachanam. That is the first level. But if I go to level 2, how was this pratipadika generated? It has been generated by subsequent use of 3 vrittis. So first I take budh, add ktin, then whatever I get, I further process. So I add matup to get buddhimat. Again I add another subanta, combine with another subanta to get buddhimat putraha. Okay. Similarly, so it means an intelligent son. Kr is a dhatu, an original dhatu, to which I add a san pratyaya. Sanadhyanta dhatu vrittihi. What do we generate from the sanadhyanta dhatu vritti? It is always a dhatu. So chikirsha is a dhatu. To this dhatu, I can add a krit pratyaya. Krit vritti is always on a dhatu, need not be an original dhatu. To kr dhatu, I can add shanach or shatru. I get kurvan, kurvanaha. That is fine. But even to a derived dhatu, I can add the krit pratyayas. So by adding shanach, I get chikirshamana. This is a pratipadika. And I can further make a samasa. Chikirshamanam karma. Okay. Or I should have added this one. So chikirshyamana karma. Okay. So this is a karmani shanach. I'll just make some slight changes. But work, to this I add a subanta. So I've added a sanadhyanta dhatu, to which I have added a krit and then made a samasa. Chikirshyamana karmanaha. We do this in sankalpa generally. So the act which is desired to be performed. Say I am wanting to do a worship. So nirvignata siddhyartham, to make sure it happens without obstacles, I do something. So here I am adding a karmani shanach. So chikirshyamana karmanaha. There is a slight change. I will change it in the slides. So of the action. So here again we have a series of vrittis, starting with a sanadhyanta dhatu vritti, then a krid vritti, then a samasa vritti. So the vrittis can happen one after the other. You can also have the same vritti repeating. Say path and nich. I get pathi. It is a nijanta dhatu. It is a sanadhyanta dhatu vritti. To this nich is a sanadi pratyaya. I can add another sanadi pratyaya. To pathi, I can add san. So pipatha isha is another dhatu. The original dhatu is path. Nijanta dhatu is pathi. So sannanta on nijanta is pipatha isha. If I make a tinganta pada, pipatha ishati, wants to teach. The meaning is very simple, though the word may look complicated. I want to teach. Why do I take this class? Aham pipatha ishami. I want to teach. So there are two sanadhyanta dhatu vrittis I have done on the word. So the vrittis are not separate. It need not be only one or the same kind. It can be any number. If we go on looking at words in Samskrita, that is why the vocabulary of Samskrita is rich. Samskrita Shabda Sampattihi apara, that is the only word. It is endless. Why? You can go on generating. It need not be somebody who has used. There are so many ways. So there are only five, actually only five vrittis. Krit, tadhita, samasa, ekashesha, sanadhyanta dhatu. But by combinations, we can generate an infinite number of words. Okay? It can be very long, or even in short words, it can have multiple layers. So when we want to look at this vritti now, it's a problem, because the first level of Vyakarana was simple. Say Parvati-parameshvarau. I say akaranta pullinga dvitiya vibhakti dvivachana. It ends there. But when we want to go to level 2, ka vrittihi Parvati-parameshvara iti pratipadikam katham nishpannam iti yada vayam prashnam kurmaha. So the first vritti, that is going backwards, when we are working backwards, the first vritti is samasa. Sarve jananti. Parvati cha parameshvaraha cha iti dvandva samasaha. Dvandva samasasya Shaili chakara dvayam. Normally I can just say Parvati-parameshvarau cha to mean Parvati and Parameshvara. But when writing the Vigraha for Dvandva Samasa, it is a stylistic way of using two chakaras. They don't mean anything additional. It just means Parvati and Parameshvara. Atra samasa vrittihi asti. Dvandva samasaha. Now I take Parvati, I take Parameshvara. How did Parvati come about? How did Parameshvara come about? Tatra Parvati shabdam vayam yada punaha avalokayamaha. Tatra tadhita vrittihi asti. Parvatasya apatyam stri. The daughter of Parvata, that is Himalaya. Parvati was the daughter of Himalaya. So Parvatasya apatyam stri ityatra tadhita vrittihi asti. This an is a tadhita pratyaya added to the Pratipadika called Parvata. Now you can go further and ask, how did Parvata come? Okay. So there actually Parvata is derived from a Krit, an Unadi Pratyaya which comes under Krit. Parvati nama Purayati, that which literally fills the space because it is so huge. So from Bhumi till very height it fills ityarthe. Parv iti dhatoho atach iti pratyaya. So to get to the root of Parvati, from a Parva dhatu, we have three steps. We had a Samasa, Tadhita and Krit. And if you now look at the Parameshvara part of it, again you have a Samasa there. Paramaha, Ishvaraha, Parameshvaraha, the greatest master. It is a Samasa called Karmadharaya. Now you again get Parama and Ishvara. What is Parama coming from? So there again you have a Krid Vritti. Param Utkrishtam Mati. So he who measures the highest. He who, why Parama means the supreme, means it is a measure for the best that can be. So there is a dhatu called Ma with a pratyaya. Don't try to remember all these. So don't worry. Etat sarvam smartavyam iti nasti. My point is totally different. Okay. So I'm just showing for one example what is the depth to which we can go. Again in Ishvaraha, we have a Krit pratyaya. Ishte, he who rules or controls ityarthe, Ish dhatoho varach pratyaya. So if you look at a single word called Parvati-parameshvarau, we have identified 6 different vrittis when we go to understand how Parvati and Parameshvara is derived. So what is the lesson for us? Similarly, we can do the vritti for each of these. Okay, but I'll take that next. So what is the point? All words in Samskrita can be analyzed at 2 levels. Sarvesham padanam vishleshanam staradvaye kartum shakyate. Tatra prathamam bhavati padasya parichayaha. Tat subantam va tingantam va avyayam va. Tatra subantam chet anta linga vachana vibhaktayaha. Tingantam chet dhatuhu lakara pada purusha vachana parichayaha. The most important rule is apadam na prayunjita. There is a rule which says you cannot use a word which is neither subanta nor tinganta. So all words in Samskrita will fall into these 2 categories and we have to understand it. This level 1 is essential for all learners of Samskrita. Kimartham arthasya avagamanartham katham padasya prayogaha kartavyaha iti jnatum sarvaihi jnatavyam bhavati. Especially at a beginner level, this should be the focus area. Forget Kridanta, forget Tadhitanta, that will all come later. Can I identify just the Subanta, Tinganta and their Vibhakti? What are the attributes? That is where we should focus in the beginner level. Later, Tatra Dvitiyastaraha, understanding the generation of the Pratipadika or the Dhatu using Vrittis. There are 5 kinds of Vrittis, 4 of which help in generating Pratipadikas. Krit, Tadhita, Samasa, Ekashesha and Sanadhyanta Dhatu Vritti for Dhatus. This is recursive, means as we saw, you can keep on doing, adding one vritti, another vritti, another vritti. It is not always only one. Multiple vrittis are possible for a single pada. So how do we approach it? Partially, gradually. Do not try to tackle all vrittis at once. Why did I tell you very honestly? Why? Because whenever we are teaching, people keep asking randomly, is this samasa? What is the krit pratyaya? What is the tadhita pratyaya? There are so many aspects. Say, if you look at Buddhimat Putraha and ask me what is the pratyaya, I can see 4 pratyayas there. Which one do I tell? Is a problem, because I'm not saying such questions are wrong. What you should understand is that there are a lot of details behind, which you have to get there gradually, not at one step. In this Raghuvamsha course, for say Parvati or Parameshvara, if you are asking me the Krit Pratyaya for Ishvara, it is out of scope. It is not required at this stage. There is a Sukti, Ajaramaravat Pragyaha Vidyamarthancha Sadhayet. Should earn knowledge, assuming you are going to live forever. We know we don't, but it should be slow and gradual. You cannot get into all samasas or all vrittis at a single level. Tarhi asmin prakrame vayam kim kurmaha iti chet Vyakarana-amsheshu pada-parichayaha, that is the Subanta Tinganta Sarvesham Padanam api kurmaha. Level 1 you have to do for all words, and you have to do the Pada-prabheda is identifying Subanta Tinganta Avyaya, which we will do for all words. Pada-parichaya, that is Anta Linga Vachana Vibhakti for Subantas, Lakara Purusha Vachana for Tingantas. In class, we will do for some. Your practice, you should do for all. That is the fundamental practice for Bhashadhyayana, that you should be able to identify each pada. Samayasya bhavena sarvesham padanam varga samaye na kurmaha. Vishishta padanam vishaye aham varge vadami. Anyesham tu notes madhye bhavati. Our notes will have for all. You can learn, you have to practice for all, which is only level 1. For level 2, which is vritti parichayaha, bhagashaha eva bhavati, mukhyanam vrittinam eva bhavati. We will not go into complete depths of all words. If it is Parvati-parameshvara, I will only say Parvati-cha parameshvarascha. Only that main samasa, what we need for understanding the word, only that we will cover. We will not attempt to do everything. And my request is, do not raise questions for vrittis which are not mentioned in class. If I am telling a samasa, my intention is that much is enough for this level. Don't dig further in class, especially because Ayam vargaha prarambhikastare vidyamananam krite asti. Most of them don't even know all the samasas. Okay. So we will do it slowly and gradually. Do not bring in sutras or other advanced aspects. Or if I say karmadharaya, Is it Visheshana Purvapada, Visheshana Uttarapada? We will not get into it in this course. Okay. So do not request for details of every grammatical operation. Please remember, I am not telling to dent your curiosity. If you want to learn, if you feel you are at a stage where you want more information, you can try to find. Otherwise, you can ask me personally. Maam prithak prichantu vaktum prayatnam karomi. Kintu varga samaye va, WhatsApp gane va, ye prashnaha agrimastare santi, tesham uttarani na diyante. I will not take up questions which I feel are above this level. We will do very, very minimal level of the vrittis. So kridanta, very popular ones, we will tell, sektva, tumun, lyap, etc. we will deal, but not all. Again, tadhita pratyayeshu ye prasiddhaha pratyayaha tesham adhyayanam kurmaha sarvesham api na kurmaha. Okay. So now you can take up the quiz. Okay, and there are questions which I will answer about today's class. So with this, we have completed the Vyakaranamsha. Any time you go, any grantha, at any level, this is all that is there. There is nothing more. You will just keep on going deeper and deeper into the vrittis. How much deeper we need to go? We need to understand based on our level. Okay. Agrima pathe vayam काव्यांशानां विषये अन्येषां विषये किञ्चित् ज्ञात्वा अग्रिमसप्ताहात् साक्षात् रघुवंशस्य श्लोकानाम् अध्ययनम् आरभामहे. So this is the quiz link. I will post the link in the chat box, or you can use the code and you can attempt it whenever you want. It's again not about, it's only conceptual if you have understood the concept. Okay. I'm sorry, that link is not working. I will just Mangalam kurmaha tataha nirgantum arhanti. Vagartha viva sampraktau vagartha pratipattaye jagatah pitarau vande Parvati-parameshvarau vandamahe mahodandadordandau raghunandanau tejo nirjitamartanda mandalau lokanandanau